Welcome to another episode of the Back Catalogue podcast. This is the podcast where we are diving into the Last of Us TV series. I was trying to find a thing that rhymed, because I was going to keep up with the rhyming from last week, but I couldn't find it.
You pretty much did it, but then ruined it. You could have just said this is where we dive in to the Last of Us on TV. That's you were almost there.
I was almost there. But I got too ahead of myself thinking that I was going to fail.
Well, because sometimes when you don't get the syllables right, then the rhyme ends up just sounding terrible.
That's exactly right. But by we, I mean me, App, and my co-host / co-founder, Vincent. We dive into the streaming service. We tell you, the listener and the viewer, what is worth it and what is not. And yes, we are doing The Last of Us because we did the first episode and we said we won't come back to the last.
Of us.
But we had to stop by probably what's in the middle. I'm feeling we're close to the middle here.
I mean, I don't know how many episodes there are going to be. No one tell me. I don't want to know.
No one wants to know.
But
I could tell you if you wanted to.
I watched them. I think when did I message you? I messaged you on Friday or something.
Yeah, it was on Friday night. You messaged me, I think.
Yeah, and I was watching the episodes, and I had watched during that week because I kind of watched the first one when that came out, and then hadn't watched any of the other ones.
Yeah.
And then, last week I watched the other four. And I mean, like, if we can just talk home runs, I don't think there is one fault.
Look, here's what we're going to do. Today we're going to talk about just this. We're going to be, this is open discussion.
We're just going to talk about this. This is it. Why The Last of Us is the greatest TV show ever made in the history of TV.
I would also like to compare it to the first season of The Walking Dead. And the reason that I want to compare it to that is because I've been watching just clips of like bits from The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
because it's been coming up. It's moving its way into meme culture. Again.
Is it just Rick going into town on the horse? That's the only clip you've been watching?
No, I mean I could watch.
I've been watching clips, man, and it's just your YouTube history is just. That's the only clip you've watched.
But just different iterations of them from different YouTubers. So like one of them's like literally man's filmed on his phone, like old school style. So we're going to talk about that, but just tell me, Vincent, what are you thinking? Because one of the qualms you had with it, and this is what I want to see if this is still a qualm, is the character of Ellie.
So I probably should have listened to what we thought about it the first episode, and I remember watching the second episode and going, I'm 100% wrong. Ellie is better than what she is in the game.
Now that's actor Bella Ramsey. So you're saying better than?
Bro, honestly, I
not
equal to. I think better than.
Right.
I think just everything about, what's her name? Bella Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey. I mean, you or her, like Bella Ramsey, me, anyone, it doesn't matter.
Ellie in the show feels like almost, I don't want to say a better version of Ellie in the game, but just seems a bit more Ellie than Ellie is in the game, if you know what I mean. I mean, once you've played both of the games, you've kind of got, well, let's just say the first one, because obviously that's what the current episodes are based on. You go through the game and you understand, who Ellie is and her personality and those kind of things. And I think this actress, I'm not going to say her name because I'm going to mess it up again.
You'll mess it up.
I mean, Bella Ramsey.
That's exactly right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she feels like she's taken what you got in the game and almost extended it.
Mm-hmm. I'll sit here right now, look at you in the face, and I'll agree with you for this reason. And this might be because I haven't played the game in a while, and I'll talk about why I think that's a positive thing in this situation. But I feel in this live action iteration of Ellie, we are seeing the trauma that is leading up to the second season, the second game.
Yeah.
And you're able to, and I think it's because you're seeing this on a real person that you see the impact that it has. And we'll talk about episode 4 specifically in a little bit, in which Ellie has to not kill her first person, but kill somebody. Yeah. Might even be her first person that she ever kills. And you see the impact on her face, which you can't necessarily, you can. I mean, it's PS3, PS4 era, so the graphics are pretty good.
No, I think in the show they had to kind of go into that more because, I mean, you've got more time to actually have interactions between the characters.
Yeah.
You don't have to filter that with gameplay.
Plus, you might be skipping cutscenes and throwing like bottles at people's heads, you know, because like that's what you do in that game, right?
You're just picking up bricks and bottles and you're just chucking them. And the clickers they got no idea what's going on because they're looking left, they're looking right, and then it's good night.
And see, because we didn't see that second episode with the clickers in the museum.
No.
And that's a scene. That's a scene.
I will say this right now. You take any scenario, any scene in any of these first 5 episodes, and that's a scene.
That is a scene.
And I'm talking that's a top tier scene. Everything is just well thought out. The acting is actually unbelievable. I'm surprised that normally I watch things and I go, oh, okay, that was a bit off, or this is a bit off. And I know I have a habit of just kind of seeing past, issues or things that aren't quite good because I'm enjoying what I'm enjoying. But I think that the acting is top notch. The delivery of the story is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because you've got what they did in the game. So you've got that storyline, but then they're putting in bits that are adding to the world. Mm-hmm. You had that whole thing with Bill and Frank.
That's right. You have you know about them. You hear about, I guess, Bill, and you know Bill from the game, but you hear about Frank. But in this case, you see their entire story pretty much.
Yeah. Same with Henry and Sam.
They're in the game.
No, I know they're in the game.
But you get a bit more.
You get more because you're following them as well. There's I don't know if there's any cutscenes in the game where it shows from the other perspective. Definitely not as much. No, that's right.
Definitely not as them trying to survive before they meet Joel and Ellie. This is true. The two critiques that you had, one was of you weren't sold 100% on Bella Ramsey.
Bella Rams, me, you, her, whatever.
Any iteration, any pronoun.
Actually think that she is the star of this series. Right. I think she's by far the standout. And we've got Pedro Pascal's very own.
And Pedro Pascal, you can say that Bella Ramsey is the standout because Pedro Pascal plays the role of Joel so well that he elevates other people around them. Because Joel is Joel, right? He stays at one level pretty much the entire time.
Yeah.
Which allows other people to like evoke emotion and elevate beyond him. The other qualm that you had was some of the acting. And one of the ones in particular was when Tessa was captured by those dudes and they were beating her up. One of the actors was like, this man's like picked up the script on the day he walked in.
Yeah, that dude, they needed to switch that dude. Other than that, I don't think I've seen.
And I think what's made it better is that every story, it's expanding a little bit, but most of the story up until now has just been Joel and Ellie or Joel, Ellie, Henry and Sam. Like it's small groups of actors that they had to sit there and think, these guys are going to be in here for like 78% of this runtime for this episode.
Yeah.
We need to make sure these guys are good.
And then that other dude, they were just like, who have we got? Man's doing catering? Let's go.
Because when you get to those larger scenes, like for example, and this is where a lot of other viewers had some qualms, is with the, now I've forgotten her name, but it's This
is also going to be spoilers for everything up until episode 5.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you know that from the top because we said it. At some point, like many episodes ago, we said it, about a movie.
Yeah.
But what's the person's name that is going after Henry and Sam? Kathleen. A lot of people had some issues with Kathleen, and a lot of their issues is just like, it's founded on just idiocracy, right?
Yeah.
So some of their issues that people said was like, how's this lady in an apocalypse when she looks the way she looks? You know what I'm saying? Like people just pull strings out of anywhere.
See, I'm not interested in.
But what I was going to get at with these people was that the other group around her, I think if we stuck with that group, we would have found some qualms. Like for example, her bearded friend.
Yeah.
Like he's the SWAT man. Like he's the dude, right?
Yeah.
There's a scene in which they show Kathleen that there's some business going on underground, and you see that there's like the broken cement and it's almost breathing, which I'm assuming the bloater is underneath or whatever that big thing is called, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But he then closes the door, and as he's closing the door, he's like aiming at the door handle as he's stepping back. So they were like, dude, you're SWAT, so you just got to do SWAT things. And man's just took that to the 11th
You
degree.
can't be too safe.
I mean, you can't be too safe. I mean, if there's a boomer behind there or bloater, whatever it's called, that's going for the door handle first.
Bro, you out here in the floor is breathing. You're gonna be aiming at anything.
I know. Usually the floor is lava, but in this case, it's breathing, and that's crazy.
The floor is breathing.
Let's talk about episode 3 very quickly because it is not a Joel. It's not an Ellie heavy episode in any way. It's not a Joel heavy episode.
It's Bill and Frank.
It's Bill and Frank. Now that took me by surprise that this was an episode.
I mean,
but that's an episode.
That was, oh man. See, when I watched that, I was thinking, man, this is one of the best episodes of TV I've watched in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
From that I can remember, it's got to be in the top 10.
Now I gotta find something that might make you feel frustrated. But from my knowledge, that is the least rated episode by a long.
Yeah, but that's expected
Because of homophobes.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's what you have because they'll be like, oh, this is not what I signed up for. So I wanted to see zombies. That's
a good whole 2 star, 1 star lower. It's 8 out of 10, which is still very good.
Nah, see, that's a standout. But the thing is, they're all standouts. So
I mean, that's phobias of people that we don't want to have.
Yeah,
on this podcast.
That's something that as soon as you put homosexuality into a piece of content, it's going to be
it's going to be ridiculed.
It's going to be ridiculed because that's just
because that's what people do.
When I'm talking content, just like mainstream content, maybe because like you put homosexuality in certain content, and that's what people go there for.
I mean, that's exactly what people go there for. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But man, that episode took me by surprise.
Well, so great way to build a character up in one episode. I know it's like an hour and 20 minutes, but really, I've got this guy's entire backstory without having to sit there and be like, hey, this is what happened when he was a child and what led him to this or whatever. And you've got this build up and, they have that standoff with all those people who are trying to break in. Bill gets shot and you're thinking, I mean, what's going to happen here?
That transition was good.
And then there's that transition
was good.
And then you just be like, every bit of my heart has been broken, And their final time together, I was thinking, this is wild. As much as I wanted to see Bill, like crazy Bill, like in the game, how he's gone wild.
I see. This is another thing for me is I don't remember the game almost at all. Mm-hmm. I remember drafts. That's it.
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. But there's when you meet Bill in the game, and he's talking about Frank.
Yeah.
And he's talking about Frank as if he's lost Frank, right? When you meet Bill in the game, he is beyond crazy.
Yeah.
So he is like all the prepper stuff that he had done. It's just he's now at that next level with grief and loss plus prepping. So he's packed the 9 with guns, but he's crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where you have to get the car started, and you're playing as Joel, and Bill, and you guys have to push the car, and Ellie has to try to like start it up. And this is their first time in the car, and because you're like the engine's like popping and whatever, all the infected are coming out of buildings chasing you. It's wild. So I thought maybe we'd get that.
Yeah, so obviously they have changed the narrative slightly.
Well, they definitely have. And I think that this version was better.
Well, this was top tier. But I do want to replay the game. I was thinking of replaying the game to see how similar it was, which obviously it's not as similar, which doesn't really matter to me.
Well, and this is what is good. So there's 2 reasons why I think replaying the game is a good thing to do after it's finished. One is because you forget what happens. Like, for example, the Sam and Henry story and how that ends.
I forgot how that ended. I forgot, and geez. I know we're jumping around a bit, but that's what we'll do here. But man, when that happened, it was so quick and the way that...
Yeah, go on. Explain to the people what happened, though.
So, I mean...
Like, you get built up these characters over essentially 1.5 episodes. Or one and a quarter,
that's
maybe
right.
episodes.
So Henry and I mean, if you're listening to this, you should be watching The Last of Us. I mean, regardless, if you're not listening to this, you should be watching The Last of Us.
I'll watch it now.
Watch it now. But Henry and his little brother Sam, I think there's probably like 15 years between them, at least. And Sam is probably 10? I think he's 10.
He'd be around 10 years old.
And he's deaf. Mm-hmm. And Sam is trying to get out of Kansas City.
Yeah. Because
Kathleen after him because he gave her brother to the Fedra, and now Fedra, they've Kathleen and her mates have run him out of town, and the SWAT dude. And essentially, Joel and Ellie help them escape. They're out, And then
they get run up on by some infected and also Kathleen's crew at the same time.
Yeah.
In one of the most intense scenes that has been in this series so far.
And then Sam has gotten bitten.
Unbeknownst to anyone.
Unbeknownst to anyone, tells Ellie or shows Ellie.
Yeah.
And then, man, that whole time was just sadness.
Yeah.
Because he's deaf and he's got his Etch-a-Sketch kind of thing. And he says, will you stay awake with me?
That's crazy. He says that to her. He says that to her and he expects me to like sit there with a straight face, which I did. Because I won't laugh at that. But I like stood there with a straight face and I saw what happened.
Oh, jeez.
And he killed me.
Well, just after that, it just happened. Everything's happened so quickly.
Yeah.
So Sam's, run up on Ellie because he's infected now. Mm. He comes out of
They bust out the door.
They bust out the door because they're in a different room to Joel and Henry. Mm-hmm. Henry sees it. He gets the gun out. He's pointing at Joel saying, don't shoot Sam. And then Mans knows what's going on. He shoots Sam, goes, what have I done? And then he shoots himself.
Yeah.
And the way that it happens, it's...
Well, also how it affects, like from a narrative perspective. This man gave up someone that he was, he
admired.
He admired. He said that he was the best person ever. He gave them up to save his brother because his brother had leukemia. He gave him up so he could get medication. He then had to escape this city run by these people who were trying to kill him and his son, his brother specifically.
That doctor got killed because of him?
People getting killed because of him.
Yeah.
They make it. They finally make it out of town. They've made it past... They made it past people with guns. They made it past people with tanks. They made it past bloaters or whatever they're called and infected. And they get to that point where everything seems good and then it all goes wrong and he has to be the one that kills his brother. Isn't that crazy to you?
The whole time after that, I was just thinking, man, after all they went through, after all that he did, after all of that.
Is this one of the best shows at getting action, getting that's not as subtle of a moment, but those subtle moments and putting them all together? Like they were the first to put it together. Are they?
I think just the way that they're able to.
Is this home box office?
I mean, this is home box office. This is home box office's very own.
This is home box
for
office.
For us, it's Binge's very own.
Well, Foxtel, I'm on the tell.
You're on the tell. I'm on the binge, but I won't binge this. I'll watch strictly one episode a day. That's it because
you got to think.
You got to think about these things. You got to digest them because they put them out there for you to digest. They put these and they structure the story and how things happen and then the outcome in a way that you are thinking, I can't look at all that they've done. Mm-hmm. It's not as straightforward as, oh, they're shooting all these zombies, they're going out there, guns blazing, they've finally got out, and then this happens.
Yeah.
It's the whole, they've got Henry and Sam in the attic. He's painting over his eyes to make him look like a superhero because he's drawing superheroes. It's just the impact that these moments have, they've just been able to increase them by how they've led up to them.
Yeah.
So the impact is the immediate. Mans has just shot his son and then shot himself.
Is his brother? I don't know. He could be.
It's his brother. I don't know what he is in the game. It is in the show. It's his brother. I'm assuming it's going to be the same. You see that impact and you go, that's insane. But then you're thinking about kind of not so much the repercussions for them. Obviously the weight of that. But then obviously the repercussions for Ellie and Joel. Because after that, oh man, when she put I'm sorry on his little thing on the grave.
Because she said to him, like, I am the cure.
Yeah,
like,
she said my blood is medicine.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
she didn't know any better.
But even if she did know that wouldn't be, or she goes, unlikely, but what are you going to tell a kid that is gone?
But again, some hints for the, this is not an Easter egg as such, but a hint for what is to come. In the fact that it's not just her blood that they need for the cure. And that will come later in the game at least, unless they change something from the game. But here's what I want to say before we get into just, if we want to talk about hits and specifically any misses that there may be, which there's not many. One thing that is great about the Last of Us games, and specifically the second Last of Us, is that when you shoot someone and they die, or when you shoot someone and they're in the position where they're like crawling on the ground, you feel the impact of what you've done. It ain't just like you shoot, like in Grand Theft Auto, you shoot someone and then like some dude just like starts screaming and it's
and then
funny.
the police is there.
And the police is there and they got like batons.
And then you're shooting all the police and then tanks are there and then you're shooting bazookas in just like the street.
And you're doing R1, L2, like you're doing all the codes, right? You're doing Konami codes except for PlayStation. In The Last of Us, it shows that when you kill people, there's an impact on both the character that you are, but also on the characters around.
Which for me, I think that's the only way to do
killing things. I mean, if you're going to do killing things, you may as well get trauma, right? But here's the thing that they did really well in this game, which they showed in episode 4.
4, yeah.
Which is when Joel is at a shootout with those three
people
dudes.
that are ambushing them.
And he shoots one man, and this man asks him to get his mum.
No, that's when Ellie shoots him.
Ellie,
yeah,
that's
Ellie
right.
comes up, and I think that's what made it even worse because she's there going,
she's saying what she
look
did.
what I've done, and
That's right.
dude's saying my legs don't work. Can you get my like that's
like he's calling for his mum.
Which
I mean,
what are you going to do?
What are you going to do, man?
But
isn't that like when I saw that, I was like, come on, bro. I mean, this is trauma for me.
But see, something like that, it makes The Last of Us just more of a, not realistic, but I feel like it just makes it a more well-rounded.
Is grounded.
It's grounded and it makes you think about these things.
I mean, in a movie and a show and a game in which like cordyceps like infect people's brains is grounded.
Yeah,
you know, and to do that is pretty incredible. You know, and they're not doing major scale things like in, you know, Walking Dead where they go to, you know, the World Health Organization, they just blow it up, you know.
But I mean, that's iconic, you know?
I mean, that's iconic because they ran out of like budgetary like means and the explosion looked like absolute like, you know, that stuff that remember there was that iPhone app where you could film someone and then like explosions happen? That's what it looked like. The building didn't even look like it exploded. It just looks like there was fire around it.
But things like that, not the Walking Dead, but The Last of Us, it makes the kind of impact of being The Last of Us, people left behind, and you know Joel and Ellie. It makes it more. It makes the impact greater because you're thinking this like look at them trying to survive. Look at all these things that they have to do.
Yeah.
Not Rick Grimes shooting a dude and then going, Carl,
on my very way. Like, I'm on my very way.
That's right.
One of the great things that I want to say before I just quickly touch on The Walking Dead is that how good is it that the relationship between Joel and Ellie is building? You know?
That's you
and it's only subtle, right? It's only subtle.
That's the thing. I mean, I'm not an expert in you know having relationships with people that don't want to have relationships.
I mean, everyone you know likes you. Is what you're telling me.
No, I mean, I'm not an expert in other, like seeing that or knowing how people who are closed off and,
right,
you know, open up and things like that. I don't know how that works. But seeing it with Joel and Ellie, it just seems to progress well. I don't know, but you know, it's not, oh, she said something and then it's like, oh, okay, now you're like my daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
It's growing. And it grows gradually, and every time something little happens, you go, "Oh, you can see where it's going."
This is correct,
and you're excited to see it because you know people who have played the games know how it obviously ends up.
Now, here's what I want to know: why is episode 4 called "Please Hold to My Hand"? Please hold to my hand.
Don't know.
This is what has kept me
up at night.
The episode 5 is Endure and Survive because that's what they mentioned in the
comment.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Walking Dead because I've seen clips, and one of the clips that I've seen, and Walking Dead, if you want a zombie show, that is, you know, there are some heartbreaking moments, but it is more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Because they're just going around blasting zombies in the head. Like they got unlimited bullets somehow, but they haven't got any bullets. Like that, it doesn't feel as real of a world as this one does.
Well, that's the other thing with The Last of Us is, they have not that much ammo.
Yeah.
So they can't just go out and start shooting. But also if they do, then they're just going to have hordes.
They also don't have the new Kia that it was in.
That was hilarious.
The episodes in 2010.
That was hilarious. Put a bit of dirt on the on the sides.
Like they somehow always have fresh cars. Now, one of the clips that I watched, which got me, was they roll up to. This is after the first couple episodes when Rick and what's Stephen Yeun's name? His character. I think it's Stephen Yeun. Yeah.
No, I know
What's his name?
Glenn.
When Glenn and Rick roll up to the thing and they're in the Camaro just speeding through, there's horns blazing and stuff. And they ask him how did you get out of there? And it's the sheriff helped us out or something. And they're like, who's the sheriff? And then Rick gets out the car and he looks and he sees John Bernthal. What's man's name? Shane. He sees Laurie. He sees Carl, and just everyone's faces. And Rick's just I can't believe this.
Yeah.
That scene, dude. I watched just the clip. I didn't even watch up to that point. And I was like, this is one of the greatest TV shows of all time.
Yeah, but that first season of Walking Dead is top
unreal.
Tier.
But I'm sorry, but this surpasses it.
This is.
So far.
In every way, this gives you more.
Yeah.
You get the action is better because it's more tense because they don't have bullets. You get a little bite and then that's.
The zombies are also much scarier.
Yeah, they are. The clickers, man. That scene in the second episode with the clickers.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, because I was wondering when that would come up. Even the scenes with Tess. Tess was a good character.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sad that she died, but
man. No, you know what was sad? When they go to Bill and Frank's and they see Ellie's reading the notes.
Yeah.
And it says, Bill, people like us, like Joel and him, we're there to look out for people, like the people around us, the people they love. I looked out for Frank, and you got to look out for Tess.
And she's dead.
And I was just, man.
And she sacrificed. Dude, that scene when she's trying to light the thing and the zombies coming close to her, it starts just
cordyceps?
Just starts cordyceping her.
It just starts cordyceping, man.
I've seen this thing, right? So Joe Rogan does life cycle tinctures, which is mushroom tinctures. And I was one of their ads came up. And it was about cordyceps. You drip it into your coffee. And they talk about cordyceps, man. I can't. You got a product with cordyceps in the name now. You've lost a lot of your market now.
Yeah, that's right. After this,
because heads gonna be thinking they're gonna turn into clickers.
Yeah.
And if Joe Rogan's the first one to turn into a clicker, at least we'll see the progression because he does 6-7 podcasts a day.
Jeez.
I'm at $110 million money. Spotify though, we're not on there.
No, we're not. Well, we are on Spotify.
We are, but we're wherever you can.
We're wherever. We're open source. Not really open source.
Here's the thing, Vincent. Will you continue to watch this series?
Hey, what kind of question is that?
Got a question.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Maron. The Bill and Frank episode, man, geez, that was.
You could say that about all the episodes. They're all goated.
But that one there caught me by surprise, and it was just a beautiful episode. And then at the end. Man, that ending got me because, man thinks about death too often.
As in you or
as
Bill?
In me. Yeah. As in me. But, geez, that got me.
Yeah. For people like me who think about sex, drugs and rock and roll often, I don't really get the death part. But for people like you, I get it. No, that was fantastic. And I think, we sort of know where this show is going to go, but I'm very interested to see where it takes turnoffs. And does something different from the Last of Us game.
I just want to see the giraffes, really. That's what I'm interested in.
Because that's going to be a moment of levity.
See, I thought that's the thing that I can remember most about the game.
Yeah.
Mostly because I watched a video about how it's good to have kind of not low points, but lulls in movies, in games and things, just to kind of take stock of what you have. And I think that's probably... Yeah, a good thing that I'm sure they'll do it. The giraffe scene is iconic.
Well, because you get to a point in a game that is intense, a show that is intense, that when you have just a moment to just stop and be like, hey, maybe things are all right. Maybe things are going to work out. That is great. We got a sniff of that in this past episode in which they were underground.
Yeah.
And they were in that little like community area. But even then, there was the sense of dread in the background. Whereas I think in the game, when you see those giraffes, everything that is going on doesn't matter for that moment.
I'll be very interested to see. I mean, I'm sure they'll do it. But in saying that, when they're in the children's play, you know, underground, that also adds to Ellie as a character. She's just a kid.
Yeah.
She's not playing with Sam because he's a kid.
That's right.
She's playing with Sam because she wants to just play
She wants to read comics and do soccer things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I saw a video today of this person that this person hit a header, and it was one of the slowest headers, and person jumped after the ball went in the net. And I watched that about 18 times because I was laughing. The ball went in the net, then they jumped. They were either paid off or they weren't focusing.
That's hilarious.
And that
was it
made
an
me
actual
laugh.
game?
It was an actual game.
That's hilarious.
It was an actual game. But Vincent, let's get out of here. I want you to just tell them just straight up where you're putting this 9 out of 10 so far.
This is a 10 out of 10.
Sorry, it's 0 to 10 so far.
This is a 10 out of 10.
There's not many faults that you can find.
Well, in the faults that I can find, they're not enough to bring it down.
No.
I can't.
No.
I can't think of media that I've watched on a screen, you know, not in certain terms of like TV, movie kind of things. I can't think of one that's been better in recent memory.
Consistently.
The Batman is probably up there as well. Yes, obviously completely different.
That's 10 though, man. That's 10.
That's what I'm saying. It's in that league.
Yeah,
it's in that league where there are some minor things here and there. Like that dude in the first episode really almost ruined the whole thing for me. But
dude, you're ready to give up on this show, man.
I was ready to give up. Ellie I wasn't sold on, but jeez. Bella Ramsey.
I mean, listen to this, Vincent. I want you to listen closely.
Yeah.
That was The Last of Us, and this has been the Back Catalogue.
Talk soon.
Yes.